What's the story, everyone? Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. How are we all getting on? My name is Aaron, joined here by Matthew Hurley from the Gaelic Statsman podcast. We're obviously going to be running through all the weekends, big club championship action, big games, big talking points. Obviously, certainly a lot to run through. Big wins in the football, obviously for Scotstown, getting over the line against Trillick. Of course, Watty Glen just about at the death, getting past Naomh Conaill. And of course, down in Munster, Castlehaven pulled through against Rathcormac. Obviously predicted a bit of a upset on your own show, Matthew, during the week. That definitely did not come to fruition. And Dingle beat Clonmel as well. So two predictions wrong there from me. And of course in hurling as well, Naomh pulled through against Naas, and obviously big win as well for O'Loughlin Gaels versus Kilcormac. I suppose first of all, Matthew, how's life? How's things? And how did you enjoy the weekend's games?
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the weekend's games. Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Aaron. Yeah, it's I was chatting to Seamus earlier on today, and it was a good weekend for car clubs in general. Like the Camogie team, Sarsfields won. You look at the junior team, Kilmurray won, and Castlehaven obviously beat Rathcormac, which is, I'm sure, to your dismay and to my delight. But we'll move on to that once we get to it. But even bigger from Cork point of view as well, Kilmurray, the 25th best team in Cork, beat Milltown Castlehaven, the 9th best team in Kerry in the Intermediate Championship over the weekend. So special shout out to Kilmurray there for that win, outstanding win for them. And looking forward to getting into the show. You look at Naomh Conaill and Glen on Saturday night. Watch that game. Very entertaining game, in fairness. And an overall entertaining weekend of Gaelic Games.
Absolutely. Daniel says here, really close games at the weekend in Ulster and exciting taking out of the Naomh Conaill game. I thought the short marks Glen were taking was really slowing the game down, though they missed many. And I think the rule in my eyes should only stand if a mark is taken from a long distance pass, not like what was on display in Omagh on Saturday. Look, I suppose we'll start obviously with the results that obviously took place on Sunday. Massive result, obviously, for Scotstown, who managed to get over the line in the end versus Trillick. Obviously, a big goal right towards the end of the first half from Trillick. Sort of, I suppose, papered over the cracks in many ways. Scotstown were by far dominant in the first half, and that really sort of dragged them back into it. But highly entertaining game, back and forth. You didn't know which way this was going to go going down the home stretch. But in the end, Scotstown have pulled through.
They have, and a brilliant result for Scotstown in general. Like Trillick, they put it up to Scotstown right until the very end. Like they were ahead going to the last few minutes of the game until Conor McCarthy's brilliant winner, or should I say equaliser, in to take the game to extra time. And Scotstown just had that bit more in extra time to get over the line. Like you look at the Hughes brothers and Kieran Hughes and Darren Hughes, outstanding commitment to their club. Rory Begg and Ryan O'Toole, Shane Carey, Conor McCarthy, who I mentioned, Jack McCarran. Like the Monaghan stars in this team is probably endless. And fair play to Scotstown for getting over the line. But for Trillick as well, to go on a run the way they did without Matty Donnelly in the team is brilliant, in fairness to them. Like Lee Brennan probably has put his hand up to maybe get back into the Tyrone panel, or maybe make himself happy to come back into the Tyrone panel. Ryan Gray had a good game as well. So did Kieran Daly, and Richie Donnelly outstanding as well. And you look at Rory Brennan as well, had a very good game for Trillick. So Trillick, they did themselves proud in the Ulster Championship. They got over Ergal Kieran when they weren't expected to, cross McLean the same, and they nearly pulled off the shock again. So fair play to Trillick for doing that. The first Tyrone team to win an Ulster Championship game since 2016, let's not forget. So they've had an outstanding campaign, fair play to them. But Scotstown, I think the sky's the limit for them. Like I was discussing there with Seamus earlier on tonight that the final between Glen and Scotstown is literally a toss-up. It's going to be a huge game. I think it's probably going to be one of the toughest provincial finals to call. It's so tight between the two of them. Like Scotstown probably have more of the inter-county stars, while Glen have more of the experience in getting over the line and playing the likes of Kilmacud in the All-Ireland series. So it should be an interesting game. That's Ulster final. But for this game, very well done for Scotstown for getting over the line. And Conor McCarthy, he's having an outstanding year as an A, and he's probably excels going to half-back line at number 7. It's probably been a kind of a master plan move from Vinnie Corey in many ways, like as well as adding an extra fella to a position that kind of suits him running up and down the pitch. It's added an extra attacking outlet really for Scotstown and for Monaghan indeed. So big up to Vinnie Corey for that. So brilliant win for Scotstown. But for Trillick, I don't think they'll go out to the club championship with any disgrace. They've been brilliant in this club championship in Tyrone and the Ulster championship, and on Scotstown march.
Absolutely, yeah. Sean says here, who do you think will win the All-Ireland Club football final? Well, look, maybe we'll save that towards the end of the show, but definitely anyone who's tuning in, let us know in the comments who you think will go and win the All-Ireland. And yeah, make sure to be hitting the like button, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Know the drill, obviously, by now. Dylan says Dingle versus Corofin. Yeah, look, that could be a big game. That could be one of the semi-finals. Could be likely to happen, but I'm sure we definitely can't discount Castlehaven anyways. But yeah, like in terms of this game for Scotstown, like what do you think it was that dragged them back into it? Because as you said, they conceded a goal just before the end of the first half. Trillick in moments, especially in the second half, from watching it, it looked like they had a grip on the game. It looked like they were going to pull through. So what do you think Scotstown, where do you think they found the energy from to turn this one around?
It was probably the inter-county experience that they do have in the team. Like they've been in so many situations, like the likes of Shane Kerry, for example, it was brilliant yesterday. Jack McCarron, like he had most of his points were from frees, but he still had to take them. Conor McCarthy scoring that late point. You look at the Hughes brothers, Rory Beggan, like there is some battle-hardened guys in that team. Ryan O'Toole, he's well used to a comeback as well after scoring that goal against Tyrone earlier on in the year. So they are used to these pressure cooker situations, and that's probably why they got over the line against Trillick. Trillick, fair play to them for getting to this stage, but they're lacking that inter-county intensity in many ways. Like you still have Rory Brennan there, Lee Brennan to a lesser extent, but like Kieran Daly, Ryan Gray, they wouldn't have played senior inter-county for Tyrone before, and that's probably why Trillick didn't have the experience on finishing out the game, whereas Scotstown had more experience with all the Monaghan boys in that team. And Jack McCarron, I was interested to hear Seamus's point about that, and a lot of Monaghan people were talking to him about this, and they're thinking that Jack McCarron was the missing piece in that Scotstown team. That's probably the reason why they didn't get over the line in previous seasons, and you could see why. Like the 1 year he comes back or comes into the Scotstown team, they go on and win the Ulster Championship. He scores 4 points yesterday. I think he's a massive addition to that team in all fairness. So yeah, I think it's mainly the inter-county experience that got Scotstown over the line. It'll be interesting to see if that kind of form translates into the final against Watty Graham's Glen. We'll have to wait and see, but brilliant win for Scotstown, and their inter-county lads are stepping up. It usually isn't the case really with some teams. You look at Ballymun kicking to Patrick's Well for prime examples of that, and maybe even the St. Pin Bars in Cork. But Scotstown, the inter-county lads, they are stepping up to the plate. And even after a long run with Monaghan, all our semi-finals, let's not forget, they're still putting in with their club. And you definitely have to give them credit for that. So fair play to Scotstown for doing that. And their inter-county stars in many ways are stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, like, and I suppose Jack McCarron, like he transferred from another Monaghan club, didn't he, during the summer? So that's obviously the reason why he's in. So yeah, like it is a good point actually to make. Like sometimes Monaghan have so many inter-county stars in there, you forget that actually Jack McCarron is a recently sort of new addition. And yeah, like I think they've just carried on the momentum that they obviously, you know, the majority of them had obviously playing for Monaghan throughout the summer. And I think that sort of fighting instinct that's very much been embedded into Monaghan's DNA, really, playing football over the last couple of years, has been very evident to see for Scotstown. Like, even when you're watching Scotstown at times, like, I know they are a Monaghan club, but the amount of county stars that they do have, it is, you know, it's almost like you actually are watching Monaghan play in many ways.
It is, to be fair, and even
especially the way they keep fighting back towards the end as well. Like, that's very Monaghan-esque.
Definitely, and even when you look at some of the inter-county players that I named in previous podcasts, you look at Conor McCarthy, Jack McCarron, Rory Beggan, the Hughes brothers. You even forget that Ryan O'Toole and Shane Kerry actually play for them. In many ways, in general, you even forget to mention their names. And a lot of the players around them have done really well as well. Like you look at the young players in the corner forward positions, the corner back positions, they've all put in a shift in fairness to Scotstown. They've done absolutely well in fairness to them. Like, I mean, even look at their scores from yesterday. You look at Matty Maguire scoring 2 points, and he's not really near the Monaghan team. You look at Emma Caulfield, Donald Morgan, Michael McCarville, they're even putting in a shift as well. And that helps. That really helps. Like, I even look at the scores here. I count they had, I think, 9 different scores yesterday, which probably epitomises the numbers that they have in the team. And, everybody putting their shoulders to the wheel. And Trillick and Bearston had many scores as well yesterday. But the main thing about Scotstown, they were able to match that intensity. And they were able to match that quality as well that Trillick possess. So, and even better, that's why they won the game. So, like, Scotstown, they definitely go a long way. And, like, it's hard to imagine, really. Like, before the Kilcoo game, would we have mentioned Scotstown as All-Ireland contenders? Probably not, because of Kilcoo's strength and depth. They had Carl Lacey as coach. They have the likes of the Brannigans, etc. They've won an All-Ireland before, and we didn't think Scotstown had it in them to get over the line, because they haven't in the past few seasons. We knew Scotstown had the players, but the main thing was the temperament. And the fact now they've got over 2 huge tests, not just one, but 2, Kilcoo and Trillick. Like, that takes serious resolve. And to get to the final against Watty Glen, who themselves came off a tough battle on Saturday night as well, it'll be an intriguing final to see who comes out on top, because I'd say it'll be a game definitely worth looking forward to, because you look at the players on the pitch, the teams on the pitch, the management teams as well. Obviously, Matthew O'Rourke on the touchline for Watty Glen. So, like, a lot of angles to this game that we could go into, and we're definitely looking forward to it. And it's only 2 weeks from now.
Absolutely, yeah. No, like, I think it's going to be a very interesting game, and, like, I think a lot of people will have Watty Glen as the favourites. Like, they will be a lot of people's bookies' favourites in many ways, but I think Scotstown are coming in massive, massive form. And, I was thinking there, like, when you look at Scotstown and you look at the county players in there, is there anyone in that Scotstown team that isn't a county star that you think maybe could come into the team next year? Looking at someone like Dylan Morgan playing at centre back, I thought he had a phenomenal game. Like, could he be an option maybe for Monaghan next season? I know Conor Boyle usually plays in that position. But what do you reckon? Is there anyone there you think could maybe come into Monaghan next year?
Well, it would be no harm to have Donald Morgan in there, because, like, what Monaghan need is numbers to compete in Division 1 next season. So maybe as him as a backup. Conor Boyle's an outstanding player. There's no doubts about that. So, like, it'd be no harm to have a backup like that. Like, that's why Monaghan were excelling when they won the Ulster titles in 2013 and 2015. They had other players to step in. Like, I remember in 2013, they had Conor McManus, Christopher McGuinness, Kieran Hughes, all them at the pitch in the full forward line, but they still had Tommy Freeman to come onto the pitch. So maybe it'd be worth it just to have those sort of numbers to come into the team. Like, you look at McCardle, cornerback, Emma Caulfield, possibly, but then again, you have Conor McCarthy in that number 7 position. So it's a tough one, really, to probably see who could come in there. Michael McCarville, possibly midfield. Like, Darren Hughes isn't getting any younger. Darren Hughes is a very, very good player. There's no doubts about it. But the likes of Darren Hughes, the likes of Kieran Hughes, the likes of Carl O'Connell, Conor McManus, obviously, they can't last forever. And you need these players to step up as well. Matty Maguire, corner forward, like, I think he was in Monaghan's underage teams, if memory serves me correctly, scored 2 points now yesterday. So maybe if he could come into the team. Jason Kerry is another possible one at number 10, could possibly come into the Monaghan team. But there is some young players. Let's not forget, Monaghan reached the All-Ireland minor minor All-Ireland final this year, with the likes of Sean McElwain doing absolutely brilliant in that competition, and Max McGinnity. So that's another 2 forwards that you could add to that. Matty Maguire is another one from Scotstown. So, like, I'd be really, really positive about Monaghan's future. I know they're a small county. They're probably, tight on numbers in many ways. And like, I know Conor McManus is leaving, and the Hughes brothers are about to leave. There's no doubts about that. They're getting older. But you still have the likes of Jack McCarron, who's relatively young. Conor McCarthy is still relatively young. Matty Maguire, obviously, from his Scotstown journey. Sean McElwain coming through the ranks. Max McGinnity. Like, there is some very good players to keep an eye on for Monaghan in the next few seasons. Sean Jones and Aaron Mulligan, of course. Let's not forget those. They're very good young players as well. So, actually, leaving out all the names, Shane Carey is another one. You're thinking Monaghan have a lot of depth coming through for such a small county, and Monaghan is probably one of the counties. Like, we have banter with many other counties like Mayo, Kerry, Cork, whatever. But Monaghan is the one county, I think, that everybody in Ireland just looks in awe at because of the talent they have. It's such a small pool of a population there. And I think it's admirable, really, from Monaghan and fairness to them. And they have a good manager now in Vinnie Corey after his first season, reaching an All-Ireland semi-final. I think the building blocks are there. And possibly, like a lot of people are talking about Derry, Tyrone, Donegal with Jim McGuinness coming back in as Ulster Championship contenders. Why are Monaghan contenders with the players that they have, with Scotstown running the All-Ireland series at the moment? Why are Monaghan serious contenders for the Ulster Championship? It probably epitomises the talents that is in the Ulster Championship at the moment, the talented sides that are there, especially on that side of the draw. You look at Tyrone, Monaghan, Derry and Donegal all on one side of the draw, on one side, which is absolutely insane. But I definitely rate Monaghan's chances of having another good year next year because of the talent that Scott's only produced, the minors have produced this year in years to come, and the players coming through the ranks as well. Let's not forget, Aaron Mulligan didn't get a game this year when Monaghan reached the All-Ireland semi-finals, and we were talking about him as probably one of the heirs to the likes of Conor McManus, to Kieran Hughes in the next few seasons. So it'd be interesting to see how he comes in to the fold for Monaghan with such good players there at the moment. So Monaghan, I'd be absolutely loving to be a Monaghan fan at the moment because the future there is absolutely as bright as the sun.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's mad, like a few years ago, it was very, I think a lot of people have been very quick to dismiss Monaghan because of the fact that they do have such a small population. You just assume that these players that they have is a golden generation. But as you've said, players like Shane Kerry, Donald Morgan, Ryan O'Toole, obviously, as well, like a whole crop of younger footballers coming through. And I think, yeah, it's great to see. And look, Monaghan certainly not going anywhere anytime soon, no doubt about that. Dylan says Monaghan are kind of like Croatia in the World Cup. Small population to everyone else, but has the talent to get at least the top four. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Even, Belgium or something like that as well. Like Belgium still continuously producing players even after their sort of recent golden generation. Croatia, very much the same. So, yeah, I think like these, and especially clubs like Scotstown, like a lot of people, clubs from up and down the country with bigger resources, much more resources, probably need to look at these clubs and think, what are they doing that we're not? I think that it's definitely a template teams can follow. Do you reckon Scotstown then could be real All-Ireland contenders? I mean, they've got Watty Graham's Glen next, and we'll touch on their game. They beat Naomh Conaill 10 points to 1-6, but like Scotstown are going in very, very strong. When you look at the wealth of players that they have, they're all clicking, they're all in form. Like I'll tell you what, if it was a betting man, you'd look at Scotstown and think like, and even when they get to Crow Park as well, they have a wealth of players there who know that ground inside and out.
And that's an advantage that they have over everybody else. But I suppose it is one game at a time. And I'm sure the Scotstown fans and the public there would be saying that at this particular moment of time. It's two very good performances, but the next game now against Watty Graham's Glen, it's what every coach says nowadays. And we'll get on to the modern day of Gaelic football probably later on in the show. But yeah, Scotstown, like they do have very good players. They probably, I'd argue this, out of the two teams, Scotstown have the better group of players than Watty Graham's Glen, if you like. While Watty Graham's Glen have more experience at this kind of level, coming up against Kilmacud Crokes, coming up against Moycullen last year, beating Kilcoo last year. But let's not forget, Scotstown beat Kilcoo just a couple of weeks ago too. So it's such an interesting one to call. And I would say this, I'll go as far as this, and I was looking at your rankings with yourself and James last week. I'd argue that Glen are number 2 and Scotstown are number 3. That is how tight this game is to call. It really is. It's a toss of a coin in many ways. I'd probably back Watty Graham's Glen for now, just because of the experience that they have in these sorts of situations. And epitomised again on Saturday night. We'll probably get onto that game just in a little while. But Scotstown definitely have a chance with the players that they have, with the inter-county experience, with the likes of Matty Maguire hitting the lights out, with the likes of Donald Morgan doing well in the full back line. I fancy Scotstown's chances in potentially doing something in the All-Ireland Club Championship. If they get past Watty Graham's Glen, they'll be a huge threat to Kilmacud Crokes in the semi-final, no doubt about that. They are a serious team with serious players, serious pedigree. I think Scotstown could be a team to watch.
I think so. And I'll nearly go as far as even putting them into number 2. In the power rankings. I think they're looking that good at the moment. And to be honest, Glen, like, touching on their game, as we said, they got through Naomh Conaill 10 points to 1-6. It wasn't a great game. It was very cagey, very slow, very hard to watch. But what was your assessment on Glen's victory?
I actually thought out of the few games that were in Gaelic football this year, this was probably one of the best. And I like this in particular. I know there's defensive play and all that, but what I liked about particularly Naomh Conaiill's probably philosophy to it, once they got the ball after defending, they broke quickly. The likes of Anthony Thompson were shooting up and down the field, like Leo McClune as well. Kieran Thompson, who was absolutely brilliant on Saturday night, and the point he got towards the end of the game, superb. Like you talk about Jim McGuinness needing leaders in that Donegal team. Kieran Thompson's one of them. He's a brilliant footballer in general. But what I would say about Watty Graham's Glen, Scotstown are probably performing better, but Glen have this tendency to peak at the right time. And I think they are peaking at the right time. I think they were the much better team maybe in the first half. And Naomh Conaill kind of got a purple patch. They scored 3 points within, 4 or 5 minutes, and they got back into the game. Then they get a penalty, and I think it was a smart move by Naomh Conaill to put AJ Gallagher into the square to get that penalty awarded. And then John O'Malley sticks that penalty away, and you're thinking, well, this could be a shock here. But in fairness to Glen, they regrouped, they got back into the game, and they powered into it. Like Emmett Bradley really powered into that game, and you wonder why Kieran Mina or Mickey Harter potentially won't really start Emmett Bradley. I know Niall Turner's done well and Brendan Rodgers has done well in midfield, but surely there has to be a place for Emmett Bradley in the team. Like he's a brilliant player, brilliant carrier of the ball, brilliant fielder, and he definitely deserves his place in the Derry team. Conor Glass as well definitely stood up when counted. I know he didn't probably show the quality that we're used to Conor Glass does in previous years, but he still put his shoulder to the wheel. He's a brilliant player doing that. Conor McGuckin had a good game on Saturday night, I have to say. He got the official man of the match, and probably deservedly so. And he did very well in the first half. What I would say, their shooting accuracies from both sides were very, very poor. And as a comment said earlier, Glen, they took a lot of marks, but missed a lot of them. I think Danny Talon took one, Alex Doherty took another, and there was another, I think Stevie O'Hara took another as well. And they missed them all. But what I would say, Glen's bench is very, very good, and it can definitely be an asset to them against Scotstown. Like Stevie O'Hara came on and got a point, and Jody McDermott came on and got a point as well. That's 2 of your subs, and they won't necessarily be part of the Derry team and things like that, but they do have experience in getting to games against Kilmacud, against Mike Cullen from last year, and they're definitely bringing that to the fore in the Ulster Championship this season. And Naomh Conaill, I think, look, a lot of people were dissing Donegal football, including myself. They were saying it's very poor quality and stuff like that. But what I will say, Naomh Conaill really impressed me on Saturday night with their experience on the team, with the likes of Liam McClune, Anthony Thompson, and Kieran Thompson in midfield was stunning as well. And of course, John O'Malley in the full forward line, and AJ Gallagher was very good in the full backs as well. I will say they lost too many kickouts though in this game. Like Watty Graham's Glen definitely had them in midfield, but arguably they did the best midfield partnership in the club championship with Bradley and Glass. So it was always going to be difficult for them. So their way of getting out was to kick it short. But Watty Graham's Glen were smart in this one. They had to push up, and they do that nearly every game, and they win the midfield battle hands down. So I think they're smart in their approach to play, and I think that's probably the reason I'd still put them as slight favourites above Scotstown going into the final. They're tipping along nicely enough. It's the same as Kilmacud. Kilmacud performed poorly against RT St Mary's, let's not forget. They performed poorly against Raheny in the Dublin semi-finals. So, look, I still think there's something in Watty Graham's game going into the final, but it's going to be a massive test now when they come up against Scotstown. It's going to be a big game, and I can't wait for it.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I thought Glen were poor enough, to be honest, for the majority of the game. Like a lot of opportunities missed, a lot of wides, as you said, from marks, from frees, efforts from play, and I don't know. I just look at Glen a lot of the time this year, and I feel like there's just something not clicking just yet. Like something just isn't quite there. I don't know if it is because Conor Glass's form has slowed down. He's obviously played a lot of games over the last year. I don't know if they're trying to save themselves for when they get to Croke Park. Obviously, if they get through Ulster, they're going to have, you'd imagine, a big semi-final against Kilmacud Crokes. But there just doesn't seem to be that sort of explosiveness about Glen. Like I remember looking at Glen last year, I think when they played Kilcoo, and that explosiveness, that movement, they were sharp, they were quick, they were quicker to everything. But in this game, I felt like Naomh Conaill left it behind them a little bit. Like they had, like Watty Graham's Glen missed chances, but Naomh Conaill missed big chances as well. And I feel like if they had a bit more quality, you could tell the effort levels were there, but a bit more quality and they could have won this. So, yeah, like Glen, I think, as you said, you can't dismiss Glen because of the players that they have, because of obviously what they've done last year, and we know they're gunning for Kilmacud Crokes, and I wouldn't be surprised in the least that if they get through Ulster, that's when they turned up, because they're waiting, they want to avenge obviously everything what happened in that game. But yeah, like, what do you reckon? Glen, like, just not really clicked into gear yet, in my opinion.
Maybe not so, yeah, but then again, it's what probably good teams do. Like, you look at the All-Ireland Championship, for example, this year, you look at Dublin, even at the end of the league campaign, I'll go back to this analogy. You looked at Dublin and Kerry at the end of the league campaign, and you're thinking they're in serious turmoil. Kerry lost every away game. They were poor against Cork in the group stage, and they still get to the All-Ireland final. Oh, you know yourself about Dublin. You were complaining about their performances in the league campaign, but they still go on and win the All-Irelands. That's what good teams do. They find ways to win games. And it's all about, in the first few games, it's all about just getting over the line. You'd worry about the performances probably in the semi-final and the final stages. And I think this is the time when Watty Glen have to worry about the performances now, because Scotstown are coming to town. It's a huge game for them. So, yeah, I think this is the time when Watty Glen are going to click. Yes, they performed poorly in the previous games, but look at teams they've come up against. Carrigan. The Carrigan beat Naomh Conaill last year. Naomh Conaill, I thought, were decent enough on Saturday night. So maybe we're kind of dismissing Carrigan as this, we say this, the Antrim Championship isn't the highest standard. They beat Naomh Conaill last year, and they would have got close to Watty Glen if it wasn't for the sending off. They played against Schlottleil in the Derry Championship, and they have the likes of Shane McGuigan, Chrissy McCaig, and Brendan Rodgers in their team. So that was always going to be a tough test. So I would argue they're hitting form right about now. Same as Kilmacud Crokes. They haven't been at their free-flowing best, I would say. I would say Kilmacud, to be honest, comparing them now, Kilmacud have had one excellent game in the Dublin final against Ballyboden. The rest of them, they were poor enough, and teams could have caught them easily. You look at RD St. Mary's, you look at Raheny, two obvious examples, possibly Ballymun on another day as well. And it's the same with Watty Glen, but they're fine. These sorts of teams, these teams that always do well in the latter stages of the championship, always find a way to get over the line. And I think Watty Glen have the tendency to do that. I think the major test will be against Scotstown in the Ulster final in 2 weeks' time. We'll see how they get on in that. But for right now, I think they're tipping along nicely at this stage. I know they haven't performed to their utmost best, but it's all about getting over the line, and they're doing that at this particular moment of time.
Yeah. No, look, I think you'd always much rather be a team who doesn't play well but wins games than a team that plays well and doesn't win games, because I think it's far easier to learn that way. And I think for a team like Glen, we know there is big performances coming. And look, going up against Scotstown will be by far the toughest test that they've had this year. I know Clonmel are obviously a very good team, and they came through them obviously in Derry, but definitely in the Ulster Championship, this is going to be the toughest test that they've faced so far. If you had to call it now, you'd go for Glen?
I would, just because of the experience that they have, but it is such a tight game to call.
Yeah, it is quite tough. All right. Dylan says here, Glen, 11 points, Scotstown 12. I think it will go down to the war with maybe Rory Beggan saving the day. Well, certainly wouldn't be the first time. Daniel says, have to also add that Conor Doherty didn't play against us on Saturday, and Ethan also didn't perform. Yeah, that is a fair point as well. So there we go. Looking at the Munster semi-finals, starting with Dingle 13 points, Clonmel 10 points. I backed Clonmel to come through this, and look, I mean, it was edge and flow at different moments, but in the end, like, Dingle pulled through in the last couple of minutes. Points from Tom O'Sullivan and Paul Gainey were enough. 3-point win for Dingle, and yeah, look, they responded quite well, because I suppose an unusual scenario for a team like Dingle going into a Munster semi-final on the back of a heavy defeat to Kerry. But look, they put it all behind them. They got over the line. That's the most important thing.
I think a lot of people are questioning Dingle, not because of the players that they have and the performance they've produced in the Kerry Championship over the last couple of years, because they have outstanding players: Paul Gainey, Dylan Gainey, Barry Dan O'Sullivan, Tom O'Sullivan, Tom Leo O'Sullivan, of course, Mark O'Connor. Like, they do have very good players. What we were questioning about Dingle was how they would bounce back after such a terrible defeat against Mid Kerry. And no, Mid Kerry, they've done well, and they had a few of the Milltown Castlehaven players, in fairness, that won the intermediate title. So fair play to them for getting over the line that game by 10 points. But it was a 10-point defeat. It was a big defeat for Dingle to take. They only scored 1 point from playing that game. We were thinking, how will they recover from this defeat? And they definitely produced their answer now yesterday. And fair play to them for doing that. Paul Gainey started at centre forward in this game, kind of further back from his role, and he definitely orchestrated the attack really, really well. Barry Dan O'Sullivan had an excellent game in midfield. And Dylan Gainey, a lot of people were saying he's a bit inconsistent and stuff like that to be in the Kerry team. But I'd be arguing, okay, Killian Burke is the big good guy at the moment for Kerry, playing for Milltown Castlehaven, and possibly Ian O'Connor as well. But I argue Dylan Gainey is just as good as well. He's an excellent footballer. I really will say that. Like, he did very well for UCC in the Sigerson Cup earlier on the year. He's done well for Dingle, and yesterday he proved his class. 5 points from play, outstanding performance from him. Conor Gainey had a good game as well. Niall Gainey wing back. And in the full back line as well, obviously the two Thomas Sullivans, one called Leo and one called the inter-county version. So, yeah, they did absolutely brilliantly for Dingle now yesterday. Clonmel, look, I would argue this defeat isn't as bad to take as last year against Newcastle West. They were only expected to lose to Newcastle West, and it was a tough defeat to take for them. But this year, they were just beaten by the better team. Dingle are probably a team that a lot of people have rated really, really highly, including myself. We probably questioned that after the big Kerry game, but they definitely produced their answer in this game. And fair play to Dingle for getting over the line. And you'd have to imagine they'll go on and win Munster now to play against Corfin or St. Bridges. Like, Bridges aren't out of it in Roscommon either, but we'll have to wait and see.
You're going to dismiss Castlehaven that easily?
It's all about like, I've learned over the past few years, if you just play down a team's chances that you want to do well, usually they come out on top, and the defeat won't be as bad or something like that. And yeah, if you kind of rise them up, then they'll get beat pretty handily. And that kind of worked in the All-Ireland quarter-final. I say Cork were All-Ireland contenders, and they only lost by 4 points against Derry, so to an extent it worked. So hopefully this will work too.
Yeah, I suppose football gods are real. They definitely are real. I think they are listening. I think if you go out, if you go too hard back in your own team, it tends to come back to bite you. And that's why Dublin went the whole way this year. I played them down for a whole season, and then they, secretly behind the scenes, they were just going and doing the business. Dylan says Conor Gainey is also coming up to senior. So there you go. But yeah, like Dylan Gainey, I mean, I know Kerry have they're certainly not short of talent when it comes to forwards, but look, I mean, maybe there could be a case for someone like a Dylan Gainey maybe to come in. Who knows? Maybe he could be replacing Paul.
Could be, yeah. Like, Paul is what, 31, 32?
Yeah, but to be fair to Paul Gainey, he had a very good All-Ireland final. Like, I think he's still got another couple of years left in him.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. Would you imagine Stephen O'Brien will step away? I'd say he will, to be honest with you. Paddy Clifford would be interesting to see what position Paddy plays, because he played, when I got corrected on this a couple of weeks ago, Paddy actually played at 13 for the whole year. But I'd be interested to see if he gets moved back to 12, or will Killian Burke come into that position. It's so interesting to see with Kerry. I think the only positions that are nailed on for next year, I would say, number 11, Sean O'Shea, number 14, David Clifford, and Paddy anywhere along those kind of wings. Those are the only three that are set in stone. Paul, possibly, he had a very good All-Ireland final, to be fair to him, maybe one more year out of him. But then there's two other spots. I think Darragh Moynihan still has earned his place in the Kerry team, so I'd still have him at 10. But then there's one more spot. I'm not sure who you give it to. Would you give it to Dylan Gainey? Would you give it to Killian Burke? Ian O'Connor? Like, there is some very good talent in there at the moment. Killian Spillane, yeah, but I'd argue about Killian Spillane. He's much better coming on as a sub than he is starting. Yeah. So I think he's much better at that. Like, there's a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes about the Kerry team. I'd have to argue the midfield next season would probably be Dermot O'Connor, Barry Dan. I would say at the moment David Moran's obviously retired. Jack Barry stepped away. Like, would Niall Gainey come into the half-back line? Paul Murphy's still like an experienced player there. So, like, it'd be interesting to see who comes into the team off the back of this Dingle campaign. And there's still a few spots available. But I argue at number 12 right now, Killian Burke's probably the front runner at the moment, but I wouldn't dismiss Dylan Gainey, not for a while, because like, what he did for UCC was really, really good. What he did for Dingle as well, scoring 5 points for play now yesterday in a Munster semi-final, was excellent. So I'd argue he could definitely put his hat in the ring to be in Jack O'Connor's full forward line.
Yeah. No, look, it's going to be interesting, all right. And Kerry, to be fair, not short of options, and could definitely possibly see a few players from that Dingle side maybe coming into the senior team next year. As we were saying with Castlehaven, they beat Rathcormac 116 to 1-7, and for anyone who listens on Matthew's podcast, to be fair, it was one of them predictions that, like, you know, it's not like I've seen any of Rathcormac play at Castlehaven. It was just like, let's throw out, you know, a bit of a wild prediction to keep it interesting, you know, and rather not have the same old predictions. And to be fair, I was just looking at score. We opening 20 minutes was 1-3 to a point in favour of Rathcormac, but they didn't score again until the 40th minute after that, just looking at it here. I don't know if you I didn't see the game, so I don't know if you caught much of it, but what was your assessment on? Because in the end, after that, like, this was an absolute domination, like, from Castlehaven.
It was, yeah, it was, to be fair. I actually didn't watch the game. I was at an under-18 LGFA final. My sister was playing in goal in that game, so they drew that game. So a bit of a disappointment coming out, and there is a replay in that final. But enough about that, more about the Castlehaven game. It was a comfortable enough win for them. Rathcormac, look, when I think it was 1-2 to a point. And I was showing this to someone else. I was thinking, oh, for God's sake, are Castlehaven going to lose to Rathcormac? And is Aaron going to be right about this? And for a while there, I was thinking, oh God, no, Castlehaven, look, it's going to end badly here. But to be fair to them, they regrouped. Brian Hurley and Michael Hurley scored a combined 110, I think it was 111 or something like that. Outstanding from them in fairness. And Michael has definitely put his hand up to be in the Cork team next year. A lot of people talking about him, and I suppose I've said in this podcast as well, it's up to him. Does he want to come back to the Cork team? Look, I think he's definitely up to coming to the Cork team. I definitely think he should start for them. It's just a matter of, does he want to come back himself? Brian Hurley, like, since he come back from his injury, like, he had an injury kind of a niggle coming into the Derry game in the All-Ireland quarter-final. Castlehaven rested him at the first game of the Cork Championship, but since then, I think he's been in brilliant form. He really has. He scored his second goal of the club championship in recent times against Conaill, the first day now against Rathcormac, and it was a brilliant goal, well taken goal. I've seen the highlights on Stream Sport. So very good performance from Castlehaven. Mark Collins got on the score sheet, Jack Callahan, Colin Maguire, Sean Brown. Like, there is some decent players, decent young talent in that team as well. Rory Maguire, obviously, an all-star nominee. So it's kind of like a situation with Scotstown. Like, you look at Castlehaven's players and you think they should be doing a lot better. You look at Rory Maguire, Conor Callahan, Damien Callahan, Mark Collins, Jack Callahan, Colin Maguire, Brian Hurley, Michael Hurley. Like, that's a lot of players from the intercounty level to name off on one team. So by that logic, you definitely fancy their chances in kind of overturning Dingle. But then again, Castlehaven haven't been at this stage very often. And the last time they came up against the Kerry team, they got hammered by Dr. Crooks. Dr. Crooks probably were on a different level to Dingle are now. Like, they had to look at Gooch and Fionn Fitzgerald back then. Like, they were a very good team back then. So maybe it's a different scenario for Castlehaven, but I'd still back Dingle for the final in general. But a very good win for Castlehaven in this game against Rathcormac. Look, Rathcormac, they were missing two players. I think it was Michael Curry and Conor Murray. Conor Murray actually was in New Zealand. I didn't realise that until talked about the podcast on Thursday. Sorry about that. If you were kind of swayed saying that Conor Murray would start in that game, but apparently he was in New Zealand, so he didn't start this game at all. But they did well in the first few minutes, but they were just totally outclassed. And Castlehaven, look, they beat Cracklow, they beat Rathcormac, they can only beat what's in front of them. But then again, a 9-point victory in a club championship game, it has to breed some bit of confidence into a team, and it definitely will for Castlehaven going to the final against Dingle.
Yeah, and I suppose a good weekend all around for Cork clubs. Obviously, the Kerry Intermedia champions getting beat as well. So not a bad weekend for Cork clubs.
Not bad, no. And a lot of Kerry people defend, like, you put out a tweet saying the 25th best team in Cork beats the 9th best team in Kerry, and a brilliant result for Killamatra and all that. And then some Kerry fans were biting back in the comments saying that what does rankings mean? Well, it clearly meant something when Kanturk lost to Rathmore last season in the intermediate championship, so I'll put that back at you. And a few people were saying, look, it's a Kerry manager in charge of Kilmatra and John Evans, but I'd argue it's Cork players. So, that's you might know John Evans, anybody that's listening, he's the former Roscommon, Wicklow and Tipperary manager, so he's a very good coach in fairness, and he's coaching Kilmatra this year, so they'll be definitely favourites, I would imagine, now up there in the intermediate championship. Like, you look at, I think St. Patrick's from Armagh have the likes of Aidan Nugent, Ross McQuillan, and them players, they have very good talent, and obviously Alan would have Johnny Doyle in midfield, 45 years of age, so I would argue they're probably the three front runners at the moment. But brilliant result for Kilmatra yesterday, and a lot of people doubted them, mainly because of the rankings between the golfing class, really, between the two sides. But what a result for them. Like, that's huge, really, beating the 9th best team in Kerry. That's incredible from Kilmatra. So fair play. Well done to the Gaelic area this week.
Absolutely. Oren says here, Emma Bradley was having hamstring issues for the past 2 years and took a break last year. Yeah, no, it's great to see him back at his best. Was often wondering where he was the past year or so for Derry. I know he wasn't always a regular starter in midfield, but look at getting him back into the Derry panel possibly even next year, and maybe coming off the bench, like that could be a huge asset for Derry next year. In fairness, we'll move on to some hurling results in a few, but I'm sure a lot of people would have seen this image doing the rounds over on social media throughout last night, and I suppose we couldn't not mention it. I mean, a bit of a mad one. Like, obviously a player charter that was going, doing the rounds, obviously in a club. I think a lot of people were very vocal naming the club on Twitter, and maybe we won't do it here, just in case we get any letters through the door or anything like that. But yeah, like, obviously list of requirements for players, obviously going into the league and everything else. Yeah, like, have you ever seen anything like this? A little bit mad.
It probably just, and I was talking to about this on Seamus' show. If this isn't a wind up, and if this was actually true that club put out this, I seriously worry about the game in an half.
But apparently it is true though, because apparently there was. Because on Twitter, apparently, there was a few people who were saying, like, I'm a member of the club, and it is 100% true. But, like, you do look at it and you think surely it is some sort of a wind up, because, like, you wouldn't, like, even if you were working somewhere in a professional job, you wouldn't even get something like this. So, like, for players in an amateur sport to be getting this, I mean, it's crazy, really, isn't it?
It is, and even Rule 10 there, no other sport commitments past June, soccer, golf, rugby, athletics, etc. Does that include swimming as well, which builds up the muscles? Does that include farming, which some farmers actually argue is a sport, and that's their professions? It's so unclear, this charter in many ways, and even no drinking or anything like that. What about family weddings? Like, even putting it aside from Gaelic games nowadays, like, for example, I put it this way, like, I take stats on games every week nearly in Gaelic games and stuff like that. But in one weekend in particular, my cousin was getting married and there was a wedding and stuff like that, and I was invited to a meeting and stuff like that. And I missed a few Cork club games because of that, doing stats on them. Do I regret it? No. Because it's a day out. It's a day out to celebrate, other things other than Jade. These players, whoever are in this club, won't be able to celebrate them. And it's a joke in many ways. It really is. And it probably epitomises where the game is now. And Seamus made a very good point earlier on today about some of the AFLW players going over to Australia, and a few players like Vicky Wall going to the rugby, and Saoirse Noonan going up to soccer and stuff like that. And it probably denies opportunities like that too, that they won't get other sports in many ways. Like, even in Cork, Patrick Campbell won an All-Ireland minor title in 2019. He then goes to the Munster rugby team. Ben O'Connor wins an under-20 hurling title, now in the Munster rugby team. They won't have these opportunities under this charter. And it's a joke. It really is a joke. And even I was reading Billy Morgan's book, and he was saying back, when he started playing around the 60s and 70s, Cork legendary manager, legendary goalkeeper as well. He used to play soccer. I was a huge fan of soccer, but he was denied in playing soccer because of the divide back then between soccer and GAA. Obviously, you know the story between Catholic and Protestant sports and stuff like that. But it's kind of like we're going back to those kind of days with this charter. And it just probably just questions, why are we even making an effort with this? And the players must be questioning themselves as well. Looking at this charter, it's just, and someone actually commented when I posted this on Instagram, and they make a very good point. Nobody performs well under a dictatorship, and that's exactly it. And it's really, really poor from this club, whoever it is. I'm not going to name it because of censorship and all that, and we know the crack there. But like, it's really, really poor. It questions probably the ethos in GAA at the moment, and it really does. It's really, really poor form. And even players can't keep fit for the winter before the next championship. What kind of joke is that? Does that even make sense? Players actually play, regional soccer, like even in West Cork, the West Cork Schoolboys League or West Cork Adults League. They play soccer to keep fit for the next season in GAA. Same as rugby, same as athletics. Other sports, that other sports rule. Does that mean players can't go over a walk with their dog anymore? Because that's athletics. It's ridiculous. It is wondering. Yeah, it's really, really poor from that GAA club, and hopefully they'll change the rules. But because of the backlash online, I think they have to.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's mental, all right. Like, and even with the drinking ban thing, like, I think it's all about sense. It's all about sense. Like, like, especially night before a game or anything like that. And I think most players, most people, like, in those kind of scenarios, you won't do such a thing. Like, and I think at the end of the day, like, lads going out for a few points, maybe after a game. At the end of the day, it's an amateur game. These lads aren't getting paid to play there. We're not talking about this as Premier League or, like highest end sort of games where it's, results driven business and all this. At the end of the day, it's about enjoyment. And, and even at that, team bond and everything else, lads going out, like that's where you get to know each other, and that's what builds resilience, and builds, team character, team spirit and everything else. And yeah, like even with the holidays one as well, it's very odd because, like, I mean, again, it's just like do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's just bizarre, really. Like, but do you reckon this is the norm across most clubs in the country?
I don't think so. It's not the norm with my local club anyway. It isn't. No, I think there's a right kind of balance between lifestyle and other sports, and obviously the GAA team in my club. I know we're probably a junior club at the moment, but it's probably the right way to go about things. And same as Cork, and same as the club that I'm located in at the moment, and that's Nina Aerogan and Tipperary. It's kind of the same from what I'm hearing. And Miltow, Castlehaven, where my cousin's playing Kerry, it's kind of the same. But what I will say about this club, whoever put out this on or whatever, if they go over the championship in the first round, it'll be quite embarrassing, wouldn't it? It really, really would. Like, imagine if that happens. Like, don't clubs set out those sorts of rules because they think we have a chance of winning a championship because we need to, if we impose these strict rules. And if they don't go on and win the championship, no, there'll be serious questions asked about the management team. No, I'm not sure the new management team or the management team from the past. If they're a new management team stamped your authority, that's not just the way to do it at all. It just strips the lifestyle away from people. There are things outside of Gaelic games. And Gaelic games, let's not forget, as much as me and you love it, Seamus loves it, so does John McMahon, etc., etc. It's an amateur game. It isn't the be-all and end-all. Like, it's different for rugby players and soccer players because they're professional athletes. These lads, especially in club, they're not professional athletes. These are lads that are, just doing for the fun of it. And a lot of people were saying even lads playing Junior B and stuff like that, they wouldn't be as publicised online from me and you, me and myself and your channels or whatsoever. But they've been speaking to me and saying that Junior A even has gotten way too serious. Junior B is just a bit of crack, kick around or anything like that. But Junior A even intermediate, senior. I think it's even a club that's gone way too serious. And if that's the attitude in club, imagine what it'd be like in inter-county if these kind of bans are introduced. The players won't be able to live a lifestyle in inter-county. They just wouldn't. As much as we love inter-county, we want a bit of enjoyment as well. Simple as that. You know, like there's certain you know, instances we want enjoyment and stuff like that, and there's certain, you know, a bit of fun. Like the GA is a bit of fun. Why I got introduced to GA in general for my club when I was 4, 5, 6 years of age, why I got introduced with is to, you know, meet friends, go to primary school with them, and you know, basically have the crack. That's basically it. It isn't about winning or anything like that at underage or clubs or anything like that. It's about getting to know each other and building bonds. With that charter, players won't be able to build bonds at all. It'll be like, I don't know, it'll be like a camp or some sort of thing like that. And it's just sad. It really is sad. It's just a worry on where the game is going at the moment. I'm sure not all clubs are like that. My club certainly isn't. Hopefully not any other club around the country is, but that club is at the moment. And yeah, it's poor form.
Yeah, Dylan's, there's a lot of clubs here like Stacks, Gael, and Strand Road of pubs at the club grounds where the players would meet up for some points after training. Yeah, it would be like that here in Dublin as well. I mean, Whitehall Conaill is a pub right beside it. Vincent's does as well. So it is, yeah, it's very, very common, you know, the clubhouse and everything else. I suppose that's where the parents go when the kids are, you know, off, you know, training or whatever. But yeah, like, yeah, no, look, I don't think it would be like that kind of up and down the country. Like I know from playing a bit of football with Vincent's, I suppose a while back now, like it was always fun and enjoyable, like playing junior football. Like it would be very sad if junior football now is becoming. I think that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people love playing junior football, because it isn't as serious as intermediate, you know, a senior. So yeah, it's a little bit mad, all right, but you would hope that club will be able to see some sense, manage to come through it, make the relevant changes, because at the end of the day, it is an amateur sport. We're all here to enjoy it, and it shouldn't be, you know, because I think the worry is we're falling down the trend of this game becoming way too professional, and like seeing something like that like only adds to that. And you know, like there is that worry where you've got like the gap is becoming so big, and because that gap is becoming so big, it's almost like every club and every county just want to be as professional as possible, but like it's going to ruin it for the players, ruin it for everyone else.
It is definitely, and even comments actually made by your own county man Johnny Cooper on the AIB series. He was speaking to Chris Kamara and Jeff Stenning a few seasons ago, and he was asked, "Would you make the game professional?" And he said, "No, it'll ruin it. It'll just ruin the ethos of Gaelic games that players have gone through over the past few seasons." And for an All-Ireland champion to say that, I was thinking, this is a good step. It is a good step that an All-Ireland champion is saying this, and Johnny Cooper was very mature in his answer back then. But that was 6 years ago. And now we're at a stage where this sort of charter comes, and you're thinking, wow, you know, this is a club team. That isn't an inter-county level or anything like that, like Johnny Cooper was playing at that stage in his career. This is a club team that have probably never won like a championship in their own county over the past few seasons. And they're putting up this charter. I mean, it's like what rights do you actually have thinking about this? It kind of makes your blood boil looking at it. And it's like even what must their families be thinking? The players' families. They must be thinking like, how am I going to spend time with my son or my grandson or my husband or my boyfriend or anything like that? How am I supposed to spend time with them, or my brother or whatever? How am I supposed to spend time with them if this charter is being put into place? And there'll be a lot of complaints, whoever that club is now, and obviously we can't name it, but whoever that club is, there's going to be a lot of demand for changing that charter, because it's not just because it defeats the amateurism of Gaelic games in a sense. It defeats kind of the community aspect as well, in getting to know each other, the bonding between families and communities, it goes all against that. And it's just wrong. It really is wrong. And hopefully that club comes to their senses with the online backlash that's come. Hopefully that club comes to their senses pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think even putting the whole thing to paper as well, like, you know, it just left them exposed. Like, obviously someone's going to take a photo of that and share it around, and, you know, absolutely spread like wildfire. So yeah, look, we'll keep an eye on those developments anyway, and hopefully we won't see any more sort of charters or anything like that anytime soon. Looking at the hurling results, 2 games obviously in the Leinster Club Hurling Championship, starting with Naomh, who got the better of Naas, 214 to 17 points. Like, from watching this game, there was moments where Naomh looked like they were going to pull away. They looked like they were going to you know, pull through and get the victory and make this quite comfortable. But in fairness to Naas, like, they kept on battling back, they kept on fighting back. But in the end, Naomh just about had enough to pull through. Obviously, that goal from Andrew Jameson Murphy in the second half, crucial for Naomh, and in the end they win it by 3 points.
Big win for them, yeah. And Naas will be kicking themselves after probably losing, you know, 2 games where they were in it in the All-Ireland semi-final, in the Leinster semi-final, should I say, against Ballyhale, against Naomh now, and they'll be probably kicking themselves in losing this game. But Andrew Jameson Murphy and Kieran Stacey, I think it was, got the goals in this game, and very good goals to get in crucial stages to get those goals. So fair play for Naomh to getting over the line. And what's amazing about them as well, they're without Shane Barrett and they're without Donald Burke. And to get over the line without them 2 players, especially Burke, who is Dublin's best hurler, probably in many people's opinions by a country mile, especially the forward line, to miss him for the whole championship, I think it's admirable what they're doing. It's the same as Matty Donnelly with Trillick, and you imagine it kind of binds the players together a small bit, and it definitely does. You know, Sean Curry's had a very good campaign. Colin Curry scored 8 points down the last day. Liam Rush is doing well in the back line. AJ Murphy, obviously, as you mentioned there. Brian Ryan in midfield is taking his form from the Limerick championship to this championship, and he's doing splendidly well at this present moment of time. So the Fianna definitely have a good chance going to the Leinster final, and especially if they get Donald Burke for that game on Saturday. I know it's short notice and stuff like that, but if he does get back into the game on Saturday, it'll be a huge boost for the Fianna going into the game, and should be a good game, good competitive game against O'Loughlin Gaels next Saturday.
Yeah, I was listening to him on OurGame.ie earlier, actually, and I don't think he was saying he wouldn't be available. He was saying, like, you know, it'd be touch and go, but how many times have we heard that? And then a player, you know, has the shorts and, you know, togs out or whatever. But to be fair, yeah, I'm not sure he will be available this weekend. I think it might be a little bit too soon, but definitely possibly for a semi-final, All-Ireland semi-final or final, if, you know, if Naomh are to pull through, in fairness. But yeah, no, look, Colin Curry again, outstanding, 8 points from him, 2 for Sean Curry, Andrew Jameson Murphy, obviously, as you said, with the goal, Kieran Stacey getting a crucial goal as well. Look, like, you do have to credit Naas at the same time, though, because, you know, at the end of the day, Kildare champions going up against Dublin champions. Like, I know, obviously, Naas won an intermediate All-Ireland a couple of years ago, but fair play to them. Like, they didn't back down, they kept fighting, they kept plugging away, and, you know, you'd have to say, like, Naas have definitely, they're definitely in that, you know, pack of team. Like, even when you look at their performance against Ballyhale last year as well, like, they're definitely part of that pack, and, you know, they might feel like maybe they can win a Leinster in the next couple of years.
Possibly so, but they'll be also kicking themselves in losing them 2 games in such tight margins. So, like, there is that argument as well. But Naas have definitely acquitted themselves and Kildare hurling well over the last 2 seasons. And fair play to the likes of Jack Sheridan, the likes of Rian Boran, who've done well over the last few seasons for Naas. So, yeah, they've done well, but ultimately, close but no cigar. It's kind of that kind of a saying for Naas at this present moment in time. But they'll do well now next year. You'd imagine they'll win Kildare in hurling pretty handily again next year. And it's just about how they'll acquit themselves in the Leinster Championship again next season. Another good victory against Cam Ross this year in the quarterfinals, and a victory before that against St. Rynagh's. So, like they are making you know, strides in many ways, and it's all about, you know, keeping it going to the 3rd, to the 4th, to the 5th season. And if they keep doing that, maybe an unexpected Leinster title could be on their way.
Absolutely. The other game was O'Loughlin Gaels, 17 points, Kilcormac, Killoughey, 12 points. Big result for O'Loughlin Gaels, 5-point victory. First half, very, very comfortable, 10 points to 3 at half time. I suppose Kilcormac did well to make a bit more of a game of it in the second half, but in the end, it was actually it was fairly comfortable enough for O'Loughlin Gaels. And I know myself and yourself both predicted Kilcormac to pull off the upset, but you have to credit O'Loughlin Gaels coming through. They obviously came through a sticky test in Mount Leinster Rangers. They've come through this one now as well. So a big result for O'Loughlin Gaels.
Huge result from me, and we've always kind of doubted O'Loughlin games in the past few weeks or so. Ballyhale in the final, and Kilkenny. A lot of people expected Ballyhale to win it in the quarter-final against Mount Leinster Rangers. We were thinking this could be a shock here, and in the semi-final, a similar kind of scenario against Kilcormac. We even went as far as saying Kilcormac could beat them, but I think it just proves O'Loughlin Gaels have the answers to what other teams can throw at them, and that's brilliant. That's a brilliant sign of a team. In fairness to them, and in junior and senior Munster finals, and the intermediate Cork beat Kerry, so you never know. But moving on to Kerry hurling there, O'Loughlin is they have a very good backline. I will say that. And Mikey Butler, Hugh Lawler, Paddy Deegan, that's nearly 3 all-stars in your team already, 3 high-caliber inter-county players, and to have them, and I think the likes of Adam Screeney and Charlie Mitchell kind of folded under the pressure with them boys, but it's no shame. Like, they're under 20 players. These lads have been on it year in, year out. So, like Mikey Butler, he's going to be excellent again, I'd imagine, next Saturday, and he was very, very good at the weekend, coming up against the likes of Adam Screeney. So, I'd be interested in Seamus is saying that Mikey Butler will go on AJ Murphy on Saturday. I'm not sure what you think about that yourself. But if that is the case, it's going to be an amazing battle between the two. And Hugh Lawler possibly coming up against the Currys, possibly Sean or Colin, that'd be interesting as well to see. But I imagine like the Fianna probably at the best attack, but O'Loughlin Gaels is probably at the best defence. And it's going to be a very, very interesting game to see that. But not discarding the O'Loughlin Gaels attack, like Owen Wall had another good performance with 2 points. I think Conor Hearn is his name as wing forward. He got man of the match in the game. I'll just double check it now. But Mark Borgen had another good game as well for O'Loughlin Gaels. So there are some very good players. In fairness to the O'Loughlin Gaels team, and they beat Ballyhale for a reason. They're well drilled. They're well focused, and they're well focused in getting over the line in particular challenges. So I'm checking the name of the player. Conor Heary is his name. He got man of the match on TG Card. He only scored 1 point in the game, but he still offered a lot going forward and defensively, a lot of work around the middle as well. So O'Loughlin Gaels, they're in a nice state going to the Leinster final, and it should be an interesting watch on Saturday.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, I probably would agree with that. Like, I think, Mikey Butler and AJ Murphy, Hugh Lawler and Colin Curry, would imagine. I think it will be one or the other. Like, Colin Curry and AJ Murphy have been the 2 best forwards for Na Fianna this year, obviously with Donald Burke obviously not being in there. But it should be interesting. All right. I think the pace of AJ Murphy is why you would put Mikey Butler on him. I think AJ Murphy would, like Hugh Lawler, like he's probably one of the most intelligent defenders out there, but I think AJ Murphy's pace would probably just be a bit too much for him. But it could definitely be worth keeping an eye on. Kilcormac, obviously you mentioned the likes Adam Screeney, Charlie Mitchell, like lads with bright futures, obviously a few other lads in there as well. How long do you think maybe we see some of those lads start to, I suppose, fully break through into the Offaly seniors? I know we've seen the likes of Adam Screeney in the senior team last year, but like, could this bode well for Offaly? Like, the fact that an Offaly club going up against Kilkenny champions, only 5 points in it, like, could this bode well for Offaly in the future, do you think?
Possibly so, considering Kilcormac, like Seamus was mentioning earlier as well, that 5 of the players that Kilcormac have are under 20s for Offaly. They're key players as well. Killian Coyle, I think, is one. Adam Screeney, Charlie Mitchell, and there's a few others as well. I think Colin Spain is another. Like, there are some very good players in Kilcormac, and I would argue, and Seamus was the same, chatting to him earlier, maybe the game came a bit too soon for them. O'Loughlin Gaels are a lot more experienced in general, and Kilcormac are very, very young, very inexperienced. And maybe in the next 2 seasons, once they get a grip in the Offaly Hurling Championship, maybe they could go full pelt for the Leinster Championship in the next 2 seasons. But they are a good team for the future. They really are. And look, they just came up against a stronger, fitter team on Saturday, and a team that is wilier to these kind of situations. So yeah, it's an experience they have to learn from pretty fast, but they do have good young players. They definitely have young youth on their side, and they'll be a threat in the Offaly Championship and indeed the Leinster Championship, maybe the All Ireland in the next 2 seasons.
Fair, yeah. Like I suppose we've probably run out of time now to do a bit of a preview of next weekend's games. But O'Loughlin Gaels versus Na Fianna next week. I mean, if you were to predict someone to come through that, I suppose it's obviously a double header with Crokes versus Naas in the football. But in terms of the hurling final, who would you be thinking? I mean, I've been fairly confident about Na Fianna, but I do look at O'Loughlin Gaels and the way they did put aside Kilcormac, and I think, you know what it is? The fact that Ballyhale have been so dominant for so long, Kilkenny, I think they recognise this is their chance. They recognise this is their moment to win a Leinster, maybe go on an All-Ireland run. But who are you backing?
I'm going to go with O'Loughlin Gaels because of the experience that they have, experience of getting over the line, and when their back's against the wall, they put out a performance. But I will say it's very unlikely. But if Donald Burke does come back somehow into the Na Fianna team, I slightly edged to Na Fianna, but for right now, I'd probably go O'Loughlin Gaels to win it.
Yeah, I'll stick with Na Fianna ever so slightly. But again, this is one of them that really could go down to the war. And I think for Na Fianna, they need to start strong because O'Loughlin Gaels have started very fast in their last 2 games. So I think that's something that Na Fianna need to watch. In fairness, I suppose before we finish up, any club moments of the week or any standout moments from yourself?
Moment of the week has to be Kilnamartyr beating Bilton Castlehaven. Huge moment for the Munster Championship, huge moment for the club in the Gaelic area, and for Cork club, 25th in the county to beat the 9th best team in Kerry, who have had a stranglehold over Cork over the last few seasons. It's brilliant. It's brilliant for the club championship in general. And Kilnamartyr showed that no matter how much of the odds are stacked against you, you could still put off a result.
There we go. Shane says here, unfortunately, Cork also beat Kerry in the Munster Intermediate Hurling semi-final as well. Castle Lions beating my own club in a cracker. So there we go. Yeah, I suppose a lot of tears Cork seem to be causing Kerry recently. Maybe it could be a sign of things to come next year for the football. Maybe Cork might be able to topple Kerry in the Munster Championship.
Jesus, don't start now, Aaron. Like I've had hopes and dreams, but up high. Like I remember the McGrath Cup at the start of the year, a lot of people were talking us up, and then we lose the beat. So kind of typical of Cork. So yeah, hopefully we'll do well next year. But beating Kerry next year is a bit premature. We'll go into the next 5 years, 5-year plan, and we'll beat Kerry then.
Fair. Yeah, no, I think making these 5-year plans are very handy because if they go wrong again next year, you can just it's like a contract. You can just extend another 5-year plan, But yeah, no, we'll definitely see what happens there. But yeah, no, look, I think I'd agree with you for moment of the week anyway. Probably not too many standout moments really. So I think I'd fully agree with you. Obviously, like there weren't really too many shocks or surprises or any sort of trills or spills or anything like that. So I think I would agree with you in fairness. So yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and Matthew, cheers very much for coming on.
Thanks very much, Aaron.